Hi everyone, Elsie and Jitsu here. We are on day 2 of our sourdough starter. So yesterday we mixed together in our jar 50 grams of unbleached flour with 50 grams of water. We mixed it up. We put our cheesecloth on and we set it on the towel or on the, not on the towel, on the counter to kind of start its fermenting process. So day 2, we're going to take it off. And remember yesterday I said resist the urge to scrape off because we kept our top of our jar nice and clean by not scraping off. So for today, we are not going to discard anything. You're going to leave it on there. And this is only day 2 is the only day that we don't discard any. We are going to add in 50 grams of unbleached flour. Has to be unbleached because if the flour has been bleached, all of the good naturally occurring yeast have been killed, and then you won't have your fermentation process. So 50 grams of unbleached flour. I'm going to turn on my scale. And again, this doesn't have to be exactly. You can be off by a couple of grams. It's not going to be the end of the world if you are. I will say sourdough is very, very forgiving. Okay, ooh, apparently I made a mess. Almost. There we go. So it was like 53, pretty close. So now we're going to tar this back to 0. And then we're going to add equal parts water. So 50 grams of water. I'm just using tap water. You don't have to use filtered or anything special. You know what I mean? Just plain tap water works. Now that we have our equal parts of our flour and water in there with yesterday's equal parts of flour and water, we're going to use our long spatula here and we're going to mix it up. And I will say, you're going to want to use a nice big jar like this. Don't try to use a small jar. It just won't work. It will overflow and it will be quite a mess. This is the first day we've kind of bulked up to the point after this, but our amounts that we add in will be increasing after starting tomorrow with the amount of flour and water we mix in, as well as our beginning to discard. So we're going to mix it up really well in here, and you just want to make sure you don't have any flour pockets in here. You can see we've got a nice kind of thick base to it. It's nice and thick. And again, this is what it's going to look like. And what I like to do is now that I have it mixed, I'm going to scrape around the sides of my jar like this to kind of clean it up. And then again, you don't want to scrape around the top or wipe your thing off, but just kind of have it there so your jar's a little bit cleaned up. Go there really well. This is just going to make it easier to maintain your jar clean. And then you're just going to let it kind of dabble off. And you see we're now, one thing that's nice about having an actual starter jar is you can see we are about at 100 milliliters of our mixture here. So we are going to put our cheesecloth right back on here. And we're going to set it in our nice dry, like a nice area. I have mine over here on my canisters, and we're going to let it sit for 24 hours to let it ferment. And so that fermenting process means your bacteria in there is going to start getting active. It's going to eat the flour. It's going to eat the glycogen, which is then going to create the byproduct, the fermentation, which is the natural alcohols that come from it. And hopefully by day 7 of this, you should have a nice active starter. Now, the thing is, if your house is colder than the average between 68 and 72 degrees, it's going to take you longer to ferment your flour. Fermentation process, the warmer it is, the faster it happens. So in the wintertime, it takes my jars much longer to ferment than it does in the summer. If your house is warmer, on the opposite, it might go even faster. So we are going to put this on our counter, and we're going to let to sit for 24 hours until tomorrow. Again, if you're going to start your sourdough journey, I highly recommend you get a sourdough starter set. You can find them on Amazon. I do have an Amazon storefront where I have added the sourdough starter set that I use, as well as the jars that I use, the set that has the long spatula. I put in a scale in there, a digital scale that you can use, but it just makes it so much easier to have all of those basics instead of trying to find what you have around the house. It's going to make sure you have a jar that has a big wide mouth and is big enough with the measurements. It comes with a really nice handy dandy cheesecloth, which is much better than trying to use like a piece of cloth that you've cut there. This keeps it on, prevents any bugs from getting in it or whatnot. But again, check out my storefront. I do make a small commission on it if you do find that you buy something there. But again, it just helps us out as well. But I highly recommend it. It makes a huge difference. I started my journey off with just a jar, and it was terrible until I got one of these. But again, thank you so much. See me tomorrow for day 3 of our starter journey.